We're celebrating the fact that we are a grape region.
People are interested in wine. Wine is a huge, booming industry.
Concord will always be king.
It's absolutely the critical industry.
A typical grape is no larger than 3 centimeters and weighs less than an ounce. In the United States alone, there are over 350,000 acres of grapes planted. 30,000 of those acres lie in the tiny regions of western New York and northwestern Pennsylvania. This little fruit serves as both a visual and economic staple of the community. Through tourism, grape farming, and locally owned wineries, the grape industry is estimated to generate $6 billion in New York State alone. Thanks in large part to Lake Erie, the region is a geographically perfect choice for growing grapes.
The region here has a unique microclimate that makes fruit, such as grapes, very productive in the area. It's a combination of Lake Erie and the Lake Plain soils and then the escarpment that we have to the south here. And this creates a unique little region that in the spring of the year, the climate kind of holds back the frost. In the summer, the little breezes off the lake kind of moderates the real hot weather. In the fall of the year, we have an extended growing season because again, the breezes coming off the lake will kind of keep the frost away for longer in the fall.
One man who saw this potential was Dr. Thomas Bromwell Welch. Welch set up shop in Little Westfield, New York, sparking a boom in area grape production.
The gist of the story is, back in the 1800s, what happened is Dr. Welch, Thomas Welch, wanted to serve communion wine that was unfermented, so grape juice essentially. So the problem, of course, with serving grape juice is that it only lasts as long as a day. And at that time, they couldn't refrigerate it. It's simply a long way of saying, well, we had to figure out a way to pasteurize grape juice. When they started using pasteurization techniques in grape juice, Welch's was born, essentially.
The result of that is that we have these Victorian villages which are surrounded by an agricultural heritage of 30,000 acres of vineyards. That doesn't exist anywhere else in the country.
This unique setup created the ideal home for estate wineries.
In 1976, the Farm Winery Act, that enabled people who had wineries to start selling from their retail locations and also sell from satellite locations. And so having this value-added product for many growers who were in the Concord industry became very enticing to them. They could have a value-added product. They could make wine and sell it from their farm, essentially.
This act was so enticing that 21 wineries have popped up in the 40-mile span known as the Chautauqua Lake Erie Wine Trail. Officially established just a few years ago, the wine trail serves as a way to market and promote a unified body of wine cellars. The wine trail's oldest member lies just outside of Welch's Westfield. Officially established in 1961, the Johnson Estate Winery began as a small farm growing grapes and other fruit goods over 100 years ago.
Well, estate sounds like a big fancy name, but my grandfather bought his first interest in this land just about 100 years ago from the Peacock family, who were the original land agents for Chautauqua County. And when he died in 1960, my father bought the remainder of the farm from the estate, came back and turned the old Apple cold storage building into a winery. The initial idea was just to make bulk wine to sell to other wineries, but they started a little wine shop in front. And it's just slowly grown ever since.
Today, the winery hosts up to 30,000 visitors a year, handing out plenty of samples for tour groups, bachelor parties, and individuals both new and old to the art of winemaking. The estate features over 30 of its own homegrown, home-brewed wine. To create such an assortment of wines, the estate grows 12 different varieties of grapes on its 200-plus acre farm. In the fall, the Johnson team begins harvesting these acres and acres of grapes.
Typically now, 95% of our grapes we pick by machine. It's really very helpful for wine quality because given the capacity of the machine, we can pick on the day that the grapes are the most ready. Whereas if we had to rely on 100 people picking, we're at the mercy of pretty days and the grapes never come in exactly right. The picker goes out, goes up and down the rows at about 2 miles an hour. So it's basically picking 2 acres an hour. And depending on the yield any number of different tons per hour. Those 1-ton bins come into the winery immediately, and as you saw, they're grouped in groups of 6 bins because the press holds 6 tons.
From there, the bins are weighed and hauled over to the pressing area where they are then dumped. After adding some rice hulls to make the process a little less sticky, the grapes slide through the chute where the juicy fruit is destemmed and then pumped through to the Johnson's bladder press. The press then crushes the juice out of the grapes.
Imagine a big cylinder with a balloon being blown up inside it. And as that balloon is blown up, it squeezes the grapes up against the rims of the edges of the cylinder, and the cylinder is perforated. And then the juice is sent off to a tank to be fermented in a refrigerated environment.
The fermentation process varies based on the type and color of the grapes, but after anywhere from 4 to 12 days of adding yeast and sitting in the tanks, the freshly created wine is then bottled and labeled for distribution. For owners like Fred Johnson, creating the perfect wine is no easy task.
I think I said it's one part science, chemistry mostly, 1 part art, and 1 part luck. And that's probably underrating the luck part.
Down the road at the Cornell University Grape Research and Extension Laboratory, the researchers there want to overstate the importance of the science aspect of grape production. This particular Cornell research group recently received over $5 million in state money to open a state-of-the-art grape research facility. The goal of the program is to optimize scientific research in order to increase local profitability.
Our goal as an extension program is to, as I mentioned, take the research from the university level and try to apply it on a commercial level with the growers. And it's usually in the form of, we approach the growers and we'll say, okay, so there's this study that's been done. Can we take 1 block of your vineyard and we'll treat part of it this way and the rest you'll treat the way you normally do, and let's start recording data. And so that's how we try to work with the growers. And that's often the best way to get the growers to change their practices. It's a way to lead them into using more efficient production techniques.
These resourceful techniques lead to better grapes and wine, but more importantly, higher profits. This efficiency is critical when considering how important these grapevines are to Western New York.
Of grapes, the wine industry and the wine trail has probably been the fastest growing source of new money into the northern part of the county in terms of tourism and what have you. I mean, the people we see at the winery are easily 2/3 from out of state, and that's new tourism money into the state. So for northern Chautauqua County, it's absolutely the critical industry.
In fact, we did a study to see how important it is, and we had Cornell University and Penn State involved, and they did a lot of the data collection, and they found out that the grape industry contributes $347 million annually to the local economy, and that it employs about over 1,900 people.
People are interested in wine. Wine is a huge, booming industry. And an example of that, 20 years ago there were probably less than 100 wineries in the state of New York. Now there are well over 250 and approaching 300 wineries. Those wineries can't exist without people drinking wine and without people showing interest in wine. One of the challenges that we have realized that we need to address is how we make people who live here proud of what is here. There have been a lot of years where industry has left the area, where we hear more about welfare than we do about job creation. And so we have to make people here realize they have something to be proud about.
To encourage the development of this local promotion, a week was set aside in August specifically celebrating America's grape country. The week features a variety of grape and wine activities, including an area wine festival. Festival goers got the chance to taste wines from 26 different wineries from across New York State. With thousands of people pouring in to try wines of all flavors, the festival is an important showcase of why the grape industry is so special and unique to the area. To kick off this week-long celebration, America's Grape Country hosts an unusual event back in the grape town of Westfield, New York. As part of the weekend farmers market, a gathering of the finest local produce the area has to offer, a unique religious ceremony is held, the annual Blessing of the Grapes. The blessing literally involves the casting of holy water onto a grapevine.
I think in the early days, because the growing of grapes was so critical to the farmers and the people that they, would want to, call on God's help to make sure they had a good season. And so it's kind of a prayer for a good season.
Who with you and the Holy Spirit lives and reigns, one God, forever and ever. Amen.
And while an event such as the blessing of the grapes may seem unusual to a visitor's eye, it is events like this that make this community so special. And that is a special feeling worth preserving.
My wish for this area is that the little town villages would begin to appreciate that the wine industry and the grape industry can walk hand in hand to help this area economically. But what that means, if they want to attract tourists, is that they need to maintain the authenticity of the villages. So it means not putting Dollar General stores or storage units in the middle of a vineyard, because that corrupts the whole agricultural vista that makes this place special.
So while a typical grape is no larger than 3 centimeters and weighs less than an ounce, for the people of Western New York and Northwestern Pennsylvania, it means a whole lot more. And that's one message these residents plan to spread through the Grapevine for years to come.